Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I am Lauren, your host, and I have a 1-year-old son. I started this podcast for any mother who might feel alone in their journey through motherhood. Becoming a mom is hard no matter how you get there, and this podcast is about the mom stuff that comes up in our lives. Listen, enjoy, and connect with us on the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I am Lauren, your host, and it is just me today, as we're still in Corona lockdown. So, in Connecticut, this is April 1st. So, as of right now, I think right now schools are out until April 30th, I believe. I don't know, they keep changing it. I just figure no matter what, April, we're not going anywhere. So that's where we are right now. It's tough. I'm not going to lie. I don't want this all to be Corona, but it's really tough. But you do what you can. That's all I have to say. Life is tough. That's why sometimes these episodes go up a little later and things like that, because I don't even pay attention to what time they're supposed to go up and things like that. But it's rough. I'm trying to keep some normalcy. So in the morning, I get up at 5:30. I used to get up at 4:45 to work out. Now I get up at 5:30. My husband and I try and do like some sort of ab or Pilates stretch workout in the morning, for like 15-20 minutes. And then we get up and we kind of like eat a little, and then get our son up. We do take our son to daycare for the morning for 3 hours for a multitude of reasons. One is we don't want this daycare to permanently shut. Some daycares are just shut during this time and closed. And there's a lot of concern about if they can open up, who they can open up back to, when, and all that other stuff. So our daycare is staying open to a limited number of people. I don't want to say you had to kind of sign up. It was not my plan to have my son go. But there are so many reasons besides just this. I pull my son also out in the summer, so he does not go from basically June through August, so those 2 months. So in the event that we do not go back to school and I am home like this, I was a little nervous to pull him out from the middle of March and not send him back until September. I do not think that would be what's best for him. I think any little bit of socialization that he can get with other kids at this point is very important. I'm trying to let go of the fact that I understand that my students at school will be struggling because they will be behind in some areas for a while, like years. But I never thought about it with my son. And then I started thinking about it with my son. And that just panics me a little more. So, all kids, I don't want to say all kids are going to be fine, because they're going to struggle for a while. It's going to be hard if this is how we end the school year and then the kids come back in September. I can't even imagine what they're going to say about what's going to happen with special education, because it's based on hours and how much contact hours you have and things like that. And I don't know if situations are going to be by state or not. So we'll have to see. So we'll have to see what happens with the state and what they all decide, what we're going to do. It's a lot of up in the air. And so we'll just take it day by day. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. So today's episode is really going to be about what life is normally like for me as a teacher. I got some comments last time from my last week's podcast, like the history of all the different teaching jobs that I've had. And people got very upset with me, saying I left out one whole school. And I left it out on purpose because I wasn't a certified teacher the whole time when I was there. So I don't count that as my teaching time. That's not part of my 11 years that goes towards my retirement. But to briefly just say, I did start off in a special ed school. I worked in a 18 to 21 program. It was very cutting edge and new at the time. It was on a college campus with students doing like a work program and like a Best Buddies type of program for college age special education students. So I did that. And then there was another division in that school where I worked in elementary school. And it was students who in the county have severe emotional problems, and they come to this school for help. And it's a very small setting with a high adult ratio in the classroom. So typically there's 3 adults in the classroom to 4 adults in the classroom, and the most number of kids you could have was like 7. So a lot of individualized attention in that class. So that's technically where I started, but I don't really count that. That's where I learned a lot from other people. So I guess that's important. But I was not the lead teacher at any point during that time in that school. So I don't really count that time. So let's get in. I'm going to talk about what a typical day is like. Not now, not at distance learning. I don't actually want to talk about that at all because it's very stressful and very hard. And it's not the way that we're going to go in the future. So I'm going to talk about what it's like. I'm just going to talk about what it's like in my current school. It's pretty similar to the other 2 schools that I've worked at, except for like a schedule thing. But I mean, it's all pretty much the same. So as a teacher, obviously you start off your school year whenever the school year starts. In Connecticut, we have 3 days where we have to go report before the kids do. Now, when I first started teaching, I used to go in like days beforehand to do all this stuff. But now I kind of have a setup where I have everything all organized, that I know what I need to do every year. So I kind of set that up actually at the end of each school year, so that once I know who my students are, which changes a lot actually in the first couple of days, at least I have things all kind of set up and I know what to do each year, because it's kind of, for special education, there's kind of like a form that you kind of like have for all your kids and things like that. So I work in an office with 3 other people, and so a typical day would be me coming into school. We have contracted times in Connecticut where each school and each school district decides what time schools start and what time teachers need to be there. And that ranges. It can range from school to school. It definitely ranges district to district. It depends a great deal. When I first started teaching, I mean, I think it was like you had to be there 5 minutes before and you had to stay 5 minutes after. Now, at my second school that I worked at, it was 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. Now, at the school I'm at now, it's 10 minutes before the school day starts and 40 minutes after the kids leave. So that's kind of a big difference there. So I try to arrive. School starts at 7:30. I try to get to school by 7 o'clock. I used to get there at 6:30, then it was 6:45, and now that I have to drop my son off at daycare in the morning, it's 7 o'clock. More because dropping him off is not, as always, a quick process that I wish it was, but he just it's still hard for him to be dropped off, and he doesn't want to leave me. So it just takes a little longer some days. So when I arrive to school, I get into school and turn on my computer. I'm talking to the other people in my office. In our school, it matters what letter day it is. We have 4 letter days, A, B, C, and D, and that depends on what classes meet. So we have 8 total classes, or 8 periods that we have, and we teach 6 of those classes. But only 6 classes a day meet. So the maximum number of classes technically you can teach a day is 5, because you get 1 prep period no matter what every day. You have a total of 6 classes, but you only meet with 5 of them a day. So that's how that works for now. Who knows what's going to happen next year? But as of now, that's what our school does. And it works out. I mean, I think it's good to kind of see kids at different times of the day. That definitely helps. And So I check my email, get any copies ready that I need to for the day before or that day for class. Although I typically have everything always planned like for the week ahead of time. Um, and I will come in. And then typically when teachers are like 10 minutes before whatever class it is, I go to that specific classroom. I don't have a class, I don't have one classroom. I travel every period to a different classroom. So my office is like where I keep all my stuff and I have all my plans, but I have to bring those plans to a specific room. Now I am lucky where my office is attached to two rooms. And a lot of times I'm just teaching in one of those two rooms. Well, twice a day I teach in one of those two rooms. And then the other three times a day I am at the totally other side of the building, up in Taryn's room, who's been on the podcast a lot. And I teach two classes with her. And one class I just teach in her classroom, but it's a class that I teach on my own. So this year I have two I have classes that are like in special education. Every school calls them something different, but it's like a resource class. So it's a time when you meet with students that are special education students, and they come to your class, and you work on what they need help with. And that can be a range of things. Could be them organizing, learning to use their agenda, how to keep on top of their assignments, how to manage long term assignments, how to communicate with their teachers that they need special accommodations on tests, like their tests being read to them, being in a separate room, things like that. So I teach two of those classes during the day. And then I teach a co-taught math class with Taryn. It's an Algebra 1 class. And typically how that goes, and I mean, it's so hard to explain, but typically one of us will start, either Taryn or I will start off the class doing something. Typically it's Taryn actually that starts off the class. And then we work in groups with the kids. There's so many different things that we do. There's activities we do. It's kind of like it's like a weird situation because you're trying to get the kids to be independent and you're trying to get them to learn the work at the same time. So it's this weird combination of having the kids try it on their own and then come to you for questions, because a lot of what we're trying to get the kids to learn is not to say, I don't know what I'm doing. It's you want them to try and get to, I don't know how to start this problem. I started this problem and now I don't know what the next step is. I got this answer, but I know it's wrong and I don't know I don't know which step I got wrong in. So we're trying to get the kids to think like that as opposed to just saying, I don't know and I'm not going to do it. So a lot of times it's them starting the work and then us working with them and breaking them into groups or sitting one on one with them, because there's like a certain part. And once you get to know the kids in the class too, like I know certain kids are like, well, this has negative numbers in it, so they're going to struggle because when they have to solve an equation, they mix up their signs. So I know I have to check on this, and this kid for that. And that's just something that you learn when you've taught for a while, or once you've for me, I think it's very easy to see where the kids struggle with the non-math part of it, because I'm not a math teacher and Taryn is. So sometimes I know where the kids are going to make mistakes and I can see where they're going to struggle. Um, and then Taryn and I also teach a co-taught geometry class. And this class we teach all different ways. Sometimes, like I'll start off the class and do notes, and then Taryn will have an activity for us and we'll split into like three groups, an independent group, and then one group will go with Taryn and one group will go with me, and we'll go for like 10 minutes and we'll work on a specific activity. And what it is we're trying to get the kids to start. So we're trying to have them do 2 or 3 problems that we can see in a small group setting and then be like, okay, now you know how to do it. So now you can go do it independently. And then you bring the next group in and you're working on very specific problems. And we do that a lot because the kids need movement, and that class is often at the end of the day. So we need the kids to kind of like move around and have like a little more freedom. I know people think that, high school kids can just sit from 7 in the morning until 2 o'clock and sit there and just do work, but they can't. It's like impossible. I can't do it. So I don't expect them to do it. So we really try and do a lot of movement in that class. And also, geometry is more, I don't want to say applicable because I think Algebra 1 is also applicable, but more real life, more things that they can see and do. So we're really trying to, um, I think the kids I don't want to say the kids understand it more, but the kids like it better because they can see the value of using it like in their immediate future, like how much paint you need to buy to paint your room, or how much it would take to rip up your carpet and put down flooring. Those are things that kids see the value in, like, oh, I might need to know that someday. In algebra, sometimes they're like, well, I would never figure it out like this in real life. I would always just do it like this. So I find that geometry, the kids are a little more accepting of the work. And then I teach 2 math classes on my own. It's a self-contained Algebra 1 class. And self-contained means that the students are just special education students, and we work on building the skills. So they're not working on the exact same stuff that Algebra 1 classes are, but they are working on the similar curriculum. And we're really trying to build those skills of their math and just trying to get that down and just trying to get them to understand the different skill levels and improve on any weaknesses that they have in math. And I also teach a self contained geometry class that is also very similar to that. Those are my 2 favorite classes. They're smaller classes. They're kids that I've actually had for math. Some of them I've had them for 3 years already in math. And it's like so amazing to see the growth in the kids. I don't want to say it's shocking, but you don't get that much growth in like a large setting. In a small setting, there's so much more you can do with the kids, and they're so much more attentive, and there's just so much more that they can do. So than I can do as a teacher. So I just think it's very helpful just to have those small group settings. I really see big gains in math with them. So typically, what would happen in a day is I would have my co-taught class, my co-taught Algebra 1 class with Taryn. Then I would have my self-contained class of Algebra 1. And then I would have my 2 resource classes. And that would happen between, all our classes are about 55 minutes. So from like 7:30 to 11:30, that's pretty much all I'm doing. And then I have a prep from 11:30 to 12:30, and then I have my lunch from 12:30 to 1. And I guess technically I can eat my lunch whenever the heck I want, but in that time frame. But I typically wait until 12:30 because the other people in my office, that's when they have their lunch. So that's what happens. And then I have my last class from 1 to 2 is typically one of my geometry classes. So either my self-contained or my co-taught class. And that's just like a typical day of what it looks like. So, I mean, I travel a lot. Like, unfortunately, every other period I am like all the way upstairs or all the way downstairs. It doesn't work out that like I get 2 classes in a row in the same class. That doesn't happen very often. And it's just the nature of our building and how it all works. A lot of teachers do have their own classroom and they don't move all day. But I am not one of those teachers, so I move all day long, and it's just the way it is and just the way it happens. So uh, that's how it goes. Then from 2 o'clock to 2:40, every Tuesday we have meetings, and that's pretty common in the state that there is one day a week that teachers stay for meetings, and that day is typically a little longer. Ours goes a half an hour longer at the end of the day. And that is the day that there are specific meetings, either department meetings, faculty meetings. We're broken out into specific groups, so those types of meetings. So Tuesdays is our meeting days. Now, on top of that, we also have 504 meetings and PPTs. So PPTs and can happen anytime during the school day, and they also can happen from that 2 to 2:40 time. So what happens is if the meetings happen and I have a class, I have to leave sub plans, and there's a sub that comes in to do the lesson plans, and I go to the PPT, which is for a meeting that we have to have for special education students at least once a year. But there's a variety of reasons why we would have them. But the majority of them are we're having a PPT once a year to review how a student is doing in their progress. Are they making gains in their education that we are trying to improve them on? So those can happen any of those during those times. During the whole school day. 504s, which are students that have medical issues, and we have to have meetings about them. Those typically only happen after school between that 2:40 time, because that is the time where more teachers, all teachers are really available, so that more teachers can be involved in those meetings. If I do not have a meeting, this is also the time, if you are in a club, that you, as the advisor, would have meetings. So myself and two other teachers are part of the blood drive club. So we have meetings for the blood drive club certain days, typically like once a month, depending on where we are in blood drive season. That's when we would have the blood drives. So we would use that time. If I have nothing, then that is my prep time, and that is the time that I try and get my stuff ready for the next day. Or if I have to, there's a lot of paperwork in special ed. If there's paperwork that I have to do, or if I need to go and talk to other teachers about students, this is the time to do it. So that time is actually very useful to collaborate like with your colleagues, because I don't get to see all my colleagues all the time. We don't have like one lunchroom where we all eat, because our building in a high school, the building is just so big, it's just not possible. So what we do is we just kind of eat in our little areas. So there are times when you see very few people throughout the day. So after school is that time to connect with other teachers, or just there's just like a lot of like little stuff that just piles up that needs to get done. So that's what we do. So that's pretty much what a school day would look like on a normal day. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything special about anything that I was going to talk about. I think, now that I've taught for a while, I guess people always ask, Taryn and I have one period a week where we get to meet and we plan for our classes. So I am definitely in my teaching career where I can, like Thursdays, typically at the end of the day, I know what I'm going to be teaching the next week. So I'm trying to gather that stuff together Thursday and Friday afternoon, so that I have the whole week planned for the following week, and all my copies done, or all my assignments for Google Classroom up, just so that all those materials are ready to go. Because when you have a small child, you always have to be prepared that they might get sick and you might have to not be at work that day. So I am always, always, always prepared for that. And it's just that much simpler for me that um, now that I have it down, like it takes a few years in teaching to figure out a lot of this stuff and to get it down. Like I don't teach a lot of the same classes year after year either. So like I have to come up with new stuff every year. So there are some things that I try to reuse every year, and it doesn't matter what class they're in. It's just a good resource. Like things with vocabulary and vocabulary resources are always something that you can use in any class anytime. So it's more stuff like that I have. And I also work in a room with 3 other people, so that kind of helps me too, because we bounce ideas off each other and we all have different resources that we share with each other too. So that is also helpful. So that will wrap up today's show. I realized that last week I forgot to mention something that I loved about being a mom, or something about my son. So I will not forget that this week. I do love this time with my son. it's hard and it's trying and everything like that. And yes, I watched Frozen 2 like a million times, but gotta say, Frozen 2, not so bad. And it's really, some of the songs really kind of get me. Olaf and telling me that he can't wait to understand all this when he's older. Me too, Olaf. Me too. So, but something cute that my son does is now he takes all his naps at home, so he never naps at daycare, obviously, anymore. And he when he wakes up from his naps now, he kind of like he picks up his blanket and he has this bunny that he has, and he picks them both up and he stands up in his crib and then he just says mommy mommy, and he keeps calling my name and not yelling and not crying, which was something he used to always do, but he's just calling for me. And then when I open the door, he says hi, and he hands me the bunny and the blanket, and then puts his arms up so that like we can cuddle for a minute or two. And it's just so adorable and so cute how he does it, and it's just so just makes the day so much better. So I hope everyone stays safe and stays at home so that we can be done with this. And it's just such a hard time right now. So just try and get through each hour and each day and do what you can, and stay safe. And I will talk to you again next week. Bye.